The floorboards groan under my knees as I press my hand against the loose plank. The air smells of dust and old pine, a scent that has waited 80 years to be disturbed. When the board finally lifts, the light from the small attic window spills across something wedged between the joists, a folded envelope, brittle as autumn leaves, its paper browned by time and secrets. There is a name written in faded blue ink, barely legible, and beneath it, a date. 1942. This is Mother's Lost War Letters, where I share voices from the Second World War. Mothers and sons whose words never reached each other in time. The words they never got to hear in time. Tonight, what I hold in my hands was written by a woman hiding with her little boy in occupied France. Her fear pressed into every line she wrote for the future version of her son, in case she didn't survive to tell him who he was. The house around me is quiet now, though it once must have echoed with laughter and the creak of these same floors under small running feet. Outside, the light is fading. Motes of dust drift like tiny stars in the orange glow that cuts through the window. There's a clock ticking somewhere downstairs, slow and steady. Each beat like a reminder that what was once urgent has waited a lifetime to be heard. Someone in this family lived an entire life without knowing what's written here. Maybe they thought they understood why their grandmother never spoke of that year, why every photograph from her childhood looked staged, careful, almost frightened. But what's inside this letter may change that story forever. The envelope is thin, the seal broken by time, but the handwriting inside remains delicate, looping, the kind of script taught in schoolrooms before the war. I can almost see her bending over the page, candlelight flickering, a child's breathing close beside her. She must have paused often, listening for sounds beyond the walls, a shout, a siren, the knock she feared. And still, she wrote, "If stories like this stay with you long after they end, consider liking this video and subscribing to Mother's Lost War Letters, so these voices are never forgotten again." I unfold the paper carefully. It trembles slightly between my fingers, a whisper of dust rising as if the past itself exhaled. Tonight, we'll finally hear what she never got to say in time. The paper opens with a faint crack, the fibers dry after so many years without air. Her handwriting curves across the page, elegant, deliberate, the letters pressed deep enough to still be visible through the back of the sheet. I draw a slow breath and begin to read aloud. My dear boy, if you are reading this, then the war has outlasted me. I don't know where you are, how old you are now, or whether you remember the sound of my voice when I whispered you to sleep. But tonight, as the wind rattles the shutters and the world outside feels smaller than this tiny room, I need to write as if you will live to see a gentler time. The lamp is burning low. We can't risk candles anymore. Their smoke can be seen through the cracks of the window. So I write by the faint glow of the moon that slips through the curtains. The same moon that used to spill over your crib when you were still small enough to sleep in my arms. You always reached for it, your little hand waving toward that light, as if you could touch safety itself. Your laughter used to fill this house. Do you remember, my love? The creak of the old floor near the stove. You'd run back and forth with your wooden horse, clattering its wheels against the tiles, and I would scold you softly, never with anger, only fear that you might draw attention to us. The soldiers had begun patrolling the road outside, their boots echoing through the village each night. Every sound became dangerous. Even joy felt like a risk. The woman downstairs, Madame Renée, brings us bread whenever she can. It's never enough, but she hides it under her coat as if she were smuggling gold. She lost her son last winter, taken away for helping a neighbor escape. She told me she still sets an extra plate for him each night, just to keep her hands busy. I think she hopes he might come back one day and knock softly on the door, whispering "Maman," like he used to. I don't tell her that some dreams are too heavy to return. Tonight, you fell asleep early. You always do when the sirens fade. I drew constellations on your back with my finger, the same way your grandfather used to do when I was little. You giggled and told me to make the big bear, so I traced it for you. Shoulder, elbow, wrist, tiny stars made of touch. I think that's how I'll remember you forever. Your warm skin under my hand, your breath slowing as the world outside broke apart. There's a chill creeping through the cracks. I can smell the damp wood, the scent of the attic where we hide. Sometimes I imagine this smell will cling to everything, to your clothes, to your hair, and that when you're grown, it will remind you of something you can't quite name. If that happens, promise me you won't turn away from it. That smell will be all that's left of the nights we survived together. I keep a small spoon beside the bed, the one I used to feed you porridge when you were a baby. You used to bite the handle and laugh when it tapped your teeth. It's silly, but I still polish it with my sleeve, as if it was silver. Maybe one day you'll find it and understand that it was never about the spoon. It was about keeping something ordinary alive when the world around us was disappearing. This afternoon, the radio whispered news from Paris. Another decree, another set of names. I turned the dial off before you could hear. You asked me why the music stopped, and I said the station had gone to sleep. You believed me because you still believe the world has lullabies left. There's a man who comes sometimes, after dark. He doesn't knock. He just waits until the light flickers and I know it's safe to let him in. His name is Henry, though I don't know if that's real. He brings us paper and ink and sometimes whispers news from the south, of trains, of borders, of people vanishing into forests. He says we might get false papers soon. He doesn't promise anything, and I don't ask. In war, promises are like smoke. They rise, they fade, they leave the smell of what they touched. I told him once that my son dreams of flying. You always said you wanted to build airplanes when you grew up, remember? You'd draw them on the walls, their wings lopsided, their noses crooked. Henri smiled when I told him. Then he must keep dreaming, he said. Dreams can't be censored. I held on to that sentence for days, turning it over like a coin in my pocket. It's hard to believe in freedom when every street is patrolled, but maybe freedom is simply refusing to forget what you love. We keep the shutters closed, but I can still hear the church bell. It rings each evening at 7, even now. They say the priest risks his life for that sound, because it gives the villagers something to measure hope by. Every time it tolls, I whisper your name, once for each chime. It's become my ritual, my prayer. If you ever hear bells in another town, promise you'll think of me for just one breath. That way we'll still exist together, if only for the length of an echo. I must stop soon. Ink is hard to find, and every letter feels like stealing from tomorrow. But before I go, I need to tell you what I've never had the courage to say aloud. I'm not brave. Every day I wake, I want to run. Every night I tell myself I can't. Yet when I see you sleeping, your face calm even as bombs shake the horizon, I realize courage isn't a roar. It's the quiet decision to stay one more night. If you survive this, if someone shelters you, hides you, keeps you alive, never let them feel like a ghost in your story. Remember their faces. Write their names, because the world forgets quickly, and forgetting is another kind of death. The ink on the page fades halfway down, as if the pen faltered or the writer paused too long to continue. My voice catches when I read her last full line. You carry more of me than my blood. You carry my story. I look at the small spoon mentioned in the letter. It's still here, tarnished and delicate, lying beside the envelope in the dust. The attic light glints off its curved handle, and for a moment it feels as though the room itself remembers. Somewhere below, the clock ticks again, marking the same hour she once heard when she wrote these words. I imagine her bending over that page, the child breathing softly beside her, the distant echo of boots on the cobblestone street. Perhaps she hid the letter just before dawn, when the cold was sharp enough to bite through her sleeves. Maybe she lifted this very floorboard and slid the envelope beneath it, believing she would return in a few days to retrieve it. But she never did. And now, 80 years later, her voice crosses that distance, not as ink on paper, but as breath in the air, as sound. I pause, the edges of the paper trembling slightly between my fingers. There are more pages folded underneath, each thinner, each more fragile. Whatever comes next, I can already feel it tightening in my chest, the way truth always does when it's been waiting too long. I turn to the next page. The second page is thinner, almost translucent, and the ink has spread in small blue halos where tears must have fallen. I run my thumb gently along the fold, and the scent of dust and candle wax rises from it. Her words continue, still careful, still deliberate, as though she knew the act of writing might be her only way to live beyond that night. My darling boy, this morning you asked me when the soldiers would leave. You said you wanted to play outside again, to feel the wind without fear. I told you they would go when the snow melted, but we both know winter is only beginning. Still, I like to imagine that when spring comes, you'll chase the first butterfly down the hill behind the orchard, the one you used to call our sky garden. Maybe the war will have grown tired by then. I found one of your drawings today. The one of the two of us standing by the window, holding hands while the stars fall. You'd written our names in the corner, in your crooked little letters. I folded it into my pocket and carried it all afternoon. Every time I touched it, I felt the warmth of your small hand again. That's what paper does. It remembers skin. Do you remember the market square before they closed it? You would tug at my sleeve to see the pigeons scatter when the bell rang noon. The baker, Monsieur Duval, would give you the smallest piece of brioche and pretend not to notice when you took a second. He's gone now. They say he refused to sell bread to the soldiers. His wife keeps the shop empty as if waiting for him to walk back in. She told me last week, when the war ends, I will bake for everyone who still has a heart. I think she meant it. The nights are longer now. I can hear the river freezing over, the wood snapping in the stove. Each sound feels like a memory breaking. I try to keep my hands busy, darning your socks, mending the seam of your coat, sewing buttons that no one may ever see. It helps me pretend there will be mornings again, school again, a world with laughter that doesn't tremble. If the letter reaches you when you're grown, maybe you'll live somewhere with open fields. Maybe you'll be a man who fixes things. You were always curious, taking apart the clock, the radio, anything with screws and wires. I used to scold you, but now I think maybe you were born to rebuild what others destroy. Promise me this. When you have a son, teach him how to listen for what's still ticking beneath the silence. The priest came by 2 days ago. He didn't stay long. His visits make the neighbors nervous. He brought a loaf of bread wrapped in newspaper and a rosary hidden inside. He said it once belonged to his sister, taken to a camp last year. He asked me to keep it safe until she returns. I didn't have the heart to tell him I think she won't. Sometimes kindness is pretending. I hung it above your bed, beside the little wooden airplane you carved. When the moonlight hits it, both shine like they're made of the same light. We are running low on ink. Henri hasn't returned in weeks. The last time he came, he told me the trains were being watched more closely now. He said, if you must go, burn everything you leave behind. I nodded, but I couldn't burn this letter. If I disappear, I want you to know that you were loved not with fear, but with defiance. A love that refused to hide its name. I've thought about the future more than I should. In my dreams, you're taller than me. You wear a jacket too big for your shoulders, and you're laughing as you run down a street full of light. Someone calls after you, maybe a woman, maybe a child, and you turn smiling. I never see your face clearly, but I know it's you. In the dream, the bells are ringing again, and it's always 7 o'clock. I wake before they finish. Sometimes when you sleep, you whisper names. I think they are from your dreams. Children you've invented, a world where you are free. I listen, though it breaks my heart, because your imagination is proof that no wall has ever been high enough to keep a soul captive. I keep the small spoon close. When you were sick last winter, I used it to give you medicine drop by drop. You cried because it tasted bitter, and I promised the next one would be sweet. I lied, of course, but you forgave me. Mothers live on small lies of protection. The handwriting begins to shake at this point, as though her hand was trembling. The ink darkens, pressing deeper into the fibers. You once asked me if the stars hear our prayers. I told you yes, because I wanted to believe it too. Now I think they only echo what we can't bear to say out loud. Every night I open the window just enough to see them. They look colder now, but they're still there. The same ones above you, wherever you are. If you ever doubt I existed, look up. The same sky watched over us both. Tomorrow is your birthday, 6 years old. I wish I had a cake for you or even candles. I'll draw one instead, right here on the page. See, a small circle, a flame above it. Maybe when you're older and you find this, you'll trace that flame and know I was thinking of you while the world outside forgot how to celebrate. If we are still here by spring, I'll plant a lilac by the fence. You loved the smell. You used to pick the flowers and put them in my hair, laughing when I sneezed. If we cannot stay, and you must go, take one petal with you. It will remind you that there were days filled with color, even in the grayest times. I stop reading for a moment. The attic feels smaller, the air heavier. Through the cracked window, the fields outside the house are washed in pale light, just as she described. I can almost smell lilac that no longer blooms here. The next lines are faint, as if written in a hurry. They say tomorrow they will search the village again. I don't know what they are looking for anymore. Names, faces, perhaps only something to control. If Henri doesn't come, I'll take you through the forest myself. There's a woman near the river who hides children. She told me once, a mother's hands can be wings. I hope she's right. If I cannot protect you, may these words do it for me. I love you beyond fear, beyond silence, beyond the end of this war. The rest of the page is blank, except for a faint outline, the imprint of another sheet once pressed against it. I realize there must be more, folded deeper inside the envelope. But before I reach for it, I just sit there, listening to the clock downstairs mark another minute that separates then from now. In the corner of the room, a single beam of light falls on the spoon again. Its shadow stretches long across the wood, like an arm reaching for something just out of sight. She wrote this letter on the night before his 6th birthday. She planned a lilac. She drew a flame. She promised spring. But spring never came for her, and yet her words did. They traveled, hidden beneath the floorboards, through decades of silence, waiting for someone to remember. I turn the final fold and see the edge of another page. The ink there looks darker, the handwriting faster, more urgent. Whatever she wrote next must have been after that night. I can almost feel the tremor in her hand as the lines begin to blur into one another. I steady my breath. The paper crackles softly as I unfold it. The third page is darker than the others, edges singed as if it had once brushed a candle flame. The ink bleeds slightly, hurried and uneven. This isn't the same calm hand that described constellations on her son's back. These words come from the heart of fear, the kind that writes itself when time is collapsing. My dearest one, the sirens have not stopped for 3 nights. Each time they fade, I tell myself it will be the last, that silence will mean safety. But silence now feels more dangerous than noise. When it comes, it's too complete. A breath held by an entire village. I can hear the boots outside. They move with rhythm, as if rehearsed, as if the earth itself has learned to tremble on command. Madame Renee hasn't been seen in 2 days. The window below ours was smashed yesterday and no one went to fix it. We all pretend not to notice the sound of glass underfoot. I've told you we are playing a game, that we must be so quiet the mice might forget we're here. You nodded solemnly, as if this secret rule gave you power. You're a brave little soldier of silence. I wish you never had to learn that bravery so soon. This afternoon, a leaflet drifted down from the sky, carried by the wind from the square. It landed against the window like a dying bird. It said the same thing they always say. Report those in hiding. Such tidy words for something so monstrous. I folded it and tucked it under the mattress, because I couldn't bear to throw it away. Maybe one day someone will need proof of what words were used to make neighbors betray each other. The church bell rang tonight, faint and broken. I counted the chimes, 1, 2, 3, and then it stopped. Perhaps the rope snapped. Perhaps someone cut it. Without the bell, I can't measure time anymore. Only the ticking of my heart remains, stubborn and irregular. Henri came back yesterday. His face was thinner, his coat soaked through. He brought a loaf of bread wrapped in a map. When I unwrapped it, crumbs fell across the names of towns, Tours, Orléans, Lyon, places we will never see again. He said the border crossings have closed. He said trains leave at dawn, full of families, none returning. I asked him if he thought they would ever come back. He didn't answer. He only said, "Keep the boy quiet tomorrow." After he left, I couldn't stop shaking. I pressed the spoon to my lips, the small one you loved, because the metal was cold and real. It reminded me that we still exist. Outside, the air smells of smoke. Somewhere a barn burns. I can see the orange flicker through the cracks of the shutters. Every fire now feels personal. You woke up crying tonight, saying you dreamed the sky fell and turned into paper. You said you saw words written on it, names you didn't know, faces you couldn't see. I told you dreams are only stories that forget their endings. You asked if ours would have one. I couldn't answer. There is a knock below, 3 short, 1 long. That's Henri's sign, but it's too early. My hands are shaking. I've hidden the letter beneath the floorboard, just in case. If you ever find this, my love, it means we didn't make it to the forest. I will keep writing until the lamp dies. Maybe this is how courage looks. Not in running, but in recording. The handwriting here turns jagged, phrases overlapping. She must have been listening, waiting, writing between sounds. It's almost morning. The frost on the window is white as bone. Your breath makes small clouds in the air. You're still asleep beside me, your head against my arm. I can't feel my fingers anymore, but I'm grateful for that. Cold dulls fear. I can hear footsteps in the courtyard, a man shouting, another voice answering in German. I whisper your name. You stir but don't wake. Thank God. If we are taken, I want whoever finds this to know that my son was kind. He used to share his bread crust with the neighbor's dog, even when he was hungry. He used to laugh at the sound of the train whistle, never knowing it carried people away. He is not a number. He is not a secret. He is light, even when light has gone out. There is a photograph in the drawer. You, at 2 years old, your mouth full of cake. Your father took it before he left for the camp in 41. He was wearing his coat, the one with the missing button. He said, "I'll be home before the harvest." We never saw him again. If you ever find him, even in memory, tell him I kept my promise. I protected our son as long as I could. Henri said once that memory is a kind of resistance. Maybe this letter will be mine. Maybe it will survive when names don't. The door downstairs has opened. Heavy steps, one after another. The sound of boots, the scrape of wood, the metallic click of a rifle. I'm writing faster now. I can't stop. My hand hurts. If they take me, if they take you. No, I won't write that. I can hear the clock. It's 7 o'clock. The bell is gone, but the clock remains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each beat feels like goodbye. I've told you stories about stars, about maps in the sky that never change. But the truth is, even stars die. They just take longer to fade. Maybe that's all a letter is, a dying star, still shining long after it's gone. Remember the lilac I promised? It's not yet planted. But if someday you walk in a garden and smell something sweet and sharp, maybe that's it. Maybe I found a way to keep my promise after all. The letter ends mid-sentence. The ink trails downward, broken by a smear. Not a tear, something rougher like the drag of a palm. I stare at the page, realizing this must have been her last written moment. The rest of the paper is blank, as if time itself stopped. The attic feels unbearably still. The air hums with silence. Outside, the wind brushes the eaves, a low moan that sounds almost human. I look again at the final word. Promise. She never planted the lilac. Downstairs, the same old clock ticks through another hour, unaware that it's keeping time for ghosts. I can picture her now, the mother who hid with her child, writing while soldiers filled the street below. I can see her pressing this page under the floorboard with shaking hands, whispering a prayer not to be found. And then, nothing. There's a faint scorch mark on the corner of the letter, like the memory of a fire that never reached it. Maybe the attic burned once, years ago. Maybe someone extinguished it before it spread, saving this fragment without knowing what it contained. I run my fingers over the indentation of her last words. The paper dips slightly as if pressed by her breath. It feels alive, trembling. She didn't know her letter would survive, but it did. And now her grandson, her son's son, is the one who hears her voice through mine. The boy she wrote to grew up without her. Without even knowing she tried to reach him. He lived, had a family, raised a son who never understood why silence ran so deep in their house. Until today. I imagine him downstairs now, listening. The house belongs to him. This attic was his father's childhood room. He's the one who found the loose board when the workers lifted it. He's the one who handed me the envelope with trembling hands and said, I think this belonged to her. The next page is folded smaller than the rest, sealed with what looks like wax from a candle, melted, smeared by fingers. There's only one line visible through the fold. It's not addressed to her son this time, but to whoever might find it. The words are faint but legible. If you are reading this, keep him safe from the silence. I close my eyes for a moment. The attic smells of dust, wood, and faintly emwin, impossibly of lilac. I'm not sure if it's imagination, or if some memories are strong enough to bloom again after 80 years. When I open my eyes, the candle has burned low. The spoon glints softly beside the letters, a small reflection of the flame. There's still one more page folded inside. I can feel its edge under my thumb. It's lighter, written with less ink, as if she had nothing left but still needed to say goodbye. I draw a breath and lift it into the light. The last folded sheet trembles as I unfold it. The paper feels different, thinner, more fragile, almost translucent. The handwriting has changed again. The strokes are faint, as if written with a pen that had run dry or with a hand too weak to press. And yet, each word is deliberate. It is the quiet endurance of someone writing through exhaustion, through inevitability. My precious boy, it is morning now. The frost on the window has turned to water, sliding down the glass like tears. The streets outside are quiet, too quiet. I hear no footsteps, no church bell, not even the wind. The silence feels like the world holding its breath. You are still asleep beside me. You look so peaceful that I almost believe the war has ended and we are safe. Your hair curls against your forehead the way it did when you were a baby. And I remember the day you were born, the smell of soap and snow, the sound of the doctor's voice saying you were strong. I pressed you to my chest and whispered your name over and over afraid the air itself might steal it. I have packed our things, the spoon, the rosary, a photograph of your father, this letter. I can't carry much more. Henri said the patrols move east by mid-morning. If we leave before the sun is high, we might reach the river. He said there is a woman with a blue scarf who waits near the mill. If she sees a mother and child, she will know what to do. He promised. I have learned not to believe in promises, but I want to believe this one. The church tower still stands, though the bell is gone. Its shadow crosses our window every hour, long and thin like a blade. When it reaches the corner of your blanket, I know another hour has passed. That is how I measure courage now. Not in words, but in how long I can stay still without crying. Last night you asked me if God knows our names. I told you yes, but I don't know if I believe it anymore. So I will write them here for him to find if he ever looks down. Your name, my name, your father's name. That way, no matter what happens, they will exist somewhere, even if only as ink. I once dreamed of teaching you to read and write, of seeing your small fingers trace letters across a page. You were going to learn your alphabet this spring. You would have started school with the other children, carrying your lunch in the little tin box your father gave you. You would have come home with pockets full of stones, stories, and dust. I would have pretended to scold you for ruining your trousers. That's what mothers do when they can still afford to imagine the future. I used to plan things, silly things. I thought of building you a treehouse behind the shed when the war ended. I thought of repainting the shutters blue. I even kept a scrap of fabric to sew you a new shirt. You loved blue. You said it was the color that doesn't run away. I wonder if you knew what that meant. If you are reading this now, you must be grown. Maybe you have children of your own. Maybe you tell them stories about courage and faith. And maybe you think you know what those words mean. But courage, my love, is smaller than people say. It's a mother holding her child when the world tells her to run. It's writing words no one may ever read. It's choosing to hope one more time. There are sounds outside again, distant, muffled like boots on wet earth. They come and go, and each time I think it's the end. But then a bird sings just once, and the silence closes over it. I can't decide which is harder to bear, the waiting or the not knowing. I told Henri I would meet him by the orchard when the sun touches the church cross. I don't know if he will be there. He might already be gone. But I cannot stay. The air inside this house feels heavier every hour. Even the dust moves slower as if afraid. I've written your name on a small scrap of paper and sewn it into your coat. If we are separated, someone might know who you are. Maybe they'll find a kind soul among strangers. I wish I could give you more than this. A name, a coat, and a memory. If we do not reach the river, remember this. You were born free. No law, no uniform, no border can change that. Freedom isn't about where you stand. It's about what you refuse to forget. I can hear the clock downstairs. 7 again. Always 7. I wonder if the hands ever stop, ends, or if they keep circling this house, waiting for us to return. Time has become another enemy, one that doesn't wear boots but still hunts us. You've stirred beside me now. You murmur something in your sleep, a name I don't recognize. Maybe it's someone you've met in dreams, someone who teaches you to run faster than fear. Hold on to them. Children of war make friends in their sleep. It's how they survive. The handwriting here grows tighter, the lines crowding the page as if she's trying to finish before something arrives. The next section is more hurried, and then heartbreakingly tender. If you ever wonder what I look like, touch your cheek. That warmth, that softness, that's me. I'm in every breath you take without thinking. I'm in the rhythm of your steps, in the way your fingers twitch when you're about to laugh. That's how love survives war. Hidden in the body, disguised as life. I used to think that if I could just keep you safe, it would be enough. But now I know that safety is a temporary thing. What I want for you is more than that. I want you to be kind in a world that taught us cruelty. I want you to believe in beauty, even when the earth is scarred. I want you to forgive me for not being there when you wake. If you ever smell lilac, think of me. I told you once that flowers return even after the harshest winter. That wasn't a lie. You'll see. The seasons always find a way back, even if people don't. Henri said to travel light. He said to burn everything that could give us away. I thought of burning this letter, but words are heavier than paper, and I couldn't make myself do it. So I'll hide it here, beneath the boards. If it survives, it means we found a small victory. Proof that silence didn't win. Your coat is ready, the spoon is packed, the rosary is wrapped in cloth, the photograph is tucked into my pocket. We will leave as soon as the clock strikes 8. If the worst happens, and you grow up without me, I hope you still love the world. It won't deserve it, but love it anyway. Love is the only thing that keeps us human. The ink fades out at the end of the page, and for a long time, I can't speak. The attic air is thick. The silence feels almost reverent. I realize that this is the last full letter she ever wrote. There might be one more scrap, but this was her goodbye. She never said the words, "I'm sorry" or "goodbye." She wrote with defiance, with gentleness, with a faith that her son might outlive the noise. I imagine her folding this page, sliding it beneath the others, and pressing her palm over the loose board one last time. Maybe she whispered something. Not a prayer, but a promise. Maybe she kissed his hair, smelled the soap, the dust, the child still unbroken by fear. Then she took his hand, opened the door, and stepped into the cold. I look at the letters spread before me, the ink, the folds, the burn marks. It's a map of love and loss, drawn in handwriting instead of lines. The grandson who found this stands beside me now. He hasn't spoken for several minutes. His eyes move across the paper, tracing each word as if he might touch her hand through time. She left it for him, he whispers. But he never knew. He's right. The boy never read it. He was found months later, hiding in a barn outside Orléans, weak but alive. He was taken in by a family who raised him as their own. They told him his mother had been sent east and never returned. He grew up believing silence was survival, and now, decades later, his son, this man beside me, has uncovered the voice that silence buried. I watch him place his hand on the final page. His fingers tremble, and for a moment he can't breathe. He doesn't cry loudly, it's quieter than that. It's the kind of grief that doesn't make sound, only air. There's one more folded scrap inside the envelope, smaller than the others, written in a different ink, darker, more desperate. The seal is almost gone. I hesitate, but he nods. "Please," he says, "let's hear the last of her." I lift it gently, the edges crumbling slightly between my fingers. Whatever is written there, it will be her last voice. The echo that time couldn't silence. The final scrap of paper is smaller than my palm, folded twice and tucked beneath the others like something she couldn't bear to send, or couldn't bring herself to destroy. The ink is darker here, perhaps from a new pen or perhaps from desperation. A faint fingerprint stains one corner. It's a mother's touch, the last trace of warmth left behind. My little one, it's almost light. I can hear birds for the first time in days. Not many, only 2, calling to each other through the cold. You stirred in your sleep when they sang, your lips forming half words, maybe dreams. I wanted to wake you, to tell you we would leave soon, but I stayed still. I wanted you to have one more dream untouched by fear. Henri hasn't come. The street outside is empty, but I can feel the air moving differently, heavy and tense. Something is coming. Perhaps they are already near. Perhaps they have already surrounded us and I just haven't heard it yet. I promised myself I wouldn't write again. Every letter feels like tempting fate, like leaving footprints in snow. But I need to tell you one more thing, something I never said because I thought we'd have time. Your father, he didn't die in the camp, not right away. He wrote once, just before winter, a short note passed through someone who worked in the kitchens. He said he had found faith again, not in God, but in the idea of return. He said he could still see me in every sunrise. I kept that note folded in my coat until the ink disappeared. He asked me to tell you, if I could, that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's love choosing to stay. I wanted you to know that. I want you to know that you come from people who stayed. The spoon is in my pocket, the same spoon I fed you with. I keep touching it, pressing my thumb to the curve, as though it could remind me what ordinary felt like. I think if we make it to the river, I'll throw it into the water. Not to lose it, but to let it move again, to carry something of us away from this frozen place. You will be 6 years old today. The candles are imaginary, but the wish is real. If we cannot blow them out together, I will do it for you in silence. One breath, one hope, one light that no one can see, but that still burns. There is a small crack in the window pane. The frost has melted around it, and I can see a sliver of sky. It's the color of ashes and dawn. If I listen closely, I can almost hear the river, or maybe it's the wind pretending to be water, to give me courage. I've told you so many stories, haven't I? About stars that listen, about gardens that grow back, about angels who write down our names. I don't know anymore if any of them are true, but I know this. When you love someone enough, your voice stays, even if your body doesn't. It travels through paper, through time, through the smallest acts of remembering. So if you find this, know that I am still here. Not as a ghost, but as a story still being told. The lines start to blur here. Ink fades. The words tremble. But then a single sentence continues, strong and deliberate, written with every last bit of strength she had left. If they take me, remember, I chose to stay with you. Whatever happens, don't carry that as guilt. Carry it as proof that love is stronger than fear. I trace the words with my finger. The ink is raised, slightly dry but textured, as if her hand had pressed too hard. That pressure, that insistence. It's the closest thing left to her heartbeat. There are a few more faint lines below, written at an angle like she turned the paper to fill the last bit of space. If we are parted, follow the lilac. It will bloom again. Someone will know its scent. They will take you in. And if you ever find these words, my son, please forgive the world for what it did to us. Don't let it turn you to stone. I love you. Your mama. The last word trails off into a faint smudge. The ink has soaked deeper there, darker than anywhere else. It's as if she pressed the pen down, refusing to lift it, a final act of resistance or of goodbye. I can't read any further because there is nothing more to read. The rest is blank. A space that feels heavier than any words could be. I lower the paper slowly. The attic has gone utterly still, the kind of stillness that carries a weight of its own. Dust floats in the air, catching the dim morning light through the small window. Somewhere below, the man, her grandson, lets out a trembling breath. She wrote that the morning they were taken, he says quietly. The records say the house was searched. She and the boy were gone when the neighbors came. What happened to him, I ask, though I already know. He was found days later, he whispers. Someone must have hidden him near the river. He never remembered how. His hand brushes the edge of the spoon on the table, the same one his grandmother mentioned in every letter. It's tarnished now, but a faint engraving is still visible on the handle, a small letter L. She must have dropped it, he murmurs, or left it for him. I look at the folded pages spread out before us. Together they tell a story of love written in fragments, a mother's voice preserved in silence, a child's life carried forward without knowing its source. The edges of the paper curl gently upward, as if reaching toward the light. He sits down slowly on the attic floor. The beams creak, the old wood giving under his weight. He holds the letters in his lap like something sacred, something fragile. His eyes are wet but steady. My father never talked about her, he says. He always said she was lost in the war. I thought that meant gone, erased. But she was here. She left this. I nod. She left her voice. For a while, neither of us speaks. Outside, the wind shifts, brushing against the shutters. A faint scent drifts through the cracks. Impossible but distinct. Lilac. The tree she never planted, the one she promised would bloom. The sound of the clock downstairs breaks the silence. 7 chimes, measured and calm. The same time she always marked in her letters. The same hour she whispered his name each night. He closes his eyes when he hears it, a tear sliding down his cheek. Maybe she still does, he says softly. The morning light reaches the letters now, washing them in pale gold. The ink shimmers faintly. I imagine her sitting here decades ago, doing the same, watching sunlight fall across her last words, uncertain if they'd ever be read. I think of her final line, if you ever find these words, forgive the world. It's both plea and benediction, a message meant for every generation that follows. The grandson folds the papers carefully, places them back into the envelope, and ties it with a piece of twine. His hands linger on it a moment longer before setting it atop a wooden chest by the wall. Where will you keep them? I ask. He smiles faintly. Downstairs, on the mantel next to his picture. I think he deserves to finally hear her voice. The light catches the spoon one last time, throwing a thin reflection against the wall. A flicker like candlelight. He picks it up, holding it carefully. She said she might throw it into the river, he whispers. But maybe it was meant to stay. Maybe it came back for us. I don't answer. I can feel the truth of it, how certain objects seem to carry stories of their own, waiting until the right hands lift them again. He stands, looking out the small window toward the orchard. There's a tree blooming out there, he says. Lilac. We didn't plant it, it must have been wild. I follow his gaze. Through the dust-speckled glass, a faint blush of color sways in the wind, violet petals trembling against the gray sky. It's not imagination, it's memory finding its way home. The room smells faintly of earth and old wood, of paper and flowers and something like forgiveness. I fold the final scrap of paper once more, pressing it closed. My voice is low when I speak, as though afraid to disturb the quiet that's settled here. Tonight, I whisper, we finally finish what she began. Below us, the clock strikes once more, the 8th chime, marking the hour she never reached. The morning light has deepened into afternoon. The attic no longer feels like a place of dust and forgetting. It feels like a chapel made of air and silence. The grandson stands beside me, his face still and tender, eyes fixed on the lilac tree visible through the narrow window. The petals move in the breeze like a slow heartbeat. Downstairs, the clock chimes again. Its steady rhythm fills the house, the same way his grandmother once filled it with her whispers, her stories, her quiet defiance. The letters, now neatly tied and resting on the table between us, seem to breathe with every gust of wind that enters through the open window. He speaks first, his voice almost breaking the spell. My father used to sit in this room sometimes, he says quietly. He'd just sit, looking at the floor. I thought he was remembering games or childhood, but now I think he was listening. For what? I ask. For her. The word hangs in the air like the echo of a bell. He kneels again beside the place where the floorboard had been lifted. His fingers trace the edge of the gap, the hollow space that once hid the letters, the one that had kept her voice safe through decades of silence, through dust, through war and peace, and generations of forgetting. He touches the wood gently, the same way someone might touch a gravestone. She hid this here, he murmurs, right beneath where he used to sleep. She made sure her voice would always be close to him. I picture it clearly. A mother pressing an envelope into darkness, believing that words might outlast her body, that love could find a way through time if she gave it something to hold on to. He turns to me. Do you think he ever felt it? Do you think somehow he knew she was still here? I take a breath. Maybe that's why he built this house back up after the war, I say. Maybe he was building around her memory, not away from it. He nods slowly. He never spoke about her, not once. But he always smelled the lilacs when they bloomed. He'd stop whatever he was doing and just breathe. Outside, the wind carries that same scent again. Faint, sweet, almost unreal. It drifts through the open window and wraps around us like something alive. He stands, walks to the window and pushes it open wider. The sunlight spills across the room, catching on the dust in the air, turning each speck into a tiny spark. He holds the spoon in his hand, the metal glinting softly. I used to think this was just an old thing, he says, something he kept out of habit, but now I think he knew exactly what it was. He just didn't tell anyone because he didn't have the words. He looks down at the spoon again, then at the letter, and for a long moment he doesn't move. The air feels charged, as if the room itself is waiting. Finally, he steps closer to the window and holds the spoon out into the sunlight. She wanted to throw it into the river, he says, to let it move again. I think maybe that's what I'll do. I nod. She'd like that. He hesitates, then laughs softly, a sound full of both grief and relief. Funny how something so small can carry so much. Maybe that's what love is, I reply. Something small that survives everything else. We walk downstairs together, the stairs creaking beneath our feet, the house sighing like an old soul exhaling after decades of holding its breath. The air grows warmer as we reach the ground floor. The smell of old wood mixes with lilac drifting in from the open door. He steps outside, into the light. The grass in the yard is overgrown, soft against his shoes. The lilac tree sways gently beside the path, its blossoms brushing his sleeve as if greeting him. Down the hill, the river glints faintly, the same river she wrote about, the one she hoped to reach. We walk toward it in silence. Every step feels like a bridge between worlds, between her hiding and his finding, between fear and forgiveness. The path is narrow, the ground uneven, but the air feels clearer here, washed clean by memory. When we reach the water, he stops. The current moves lazily, sunlight flickering across its surface. He looks down at the spoon resting in his hand, the metal worn smooth by time. She never got to throw it, he says softly, so I'll do it for her. He kneels by the bank, his reflection rippling in the water, and holds the spoon out over the current. For a heartbeat, he hesitates, then lets it fall. The metal catches the light one last time before sinking, disappearing beneath the moving surface. The ripples spread outward in slow circles, each one softer than the last. When the water stills again, he whispers, "For you, Mama." The wind answers with a rustle through the trees, as if the world itself exhaled. We stand there for a long time, neither of us speaking. The sound of the river fills the air, a quiet, steady rhythm, the same kind of rhythm she wrote about, the heartbeat that outlasts everything else. Finally, he looks up, eyes glistening but calm. Do you think she'd forgive them? The ones who took her? I ask. He nods. I think of her last words. Forgive the world for what it did to us. Yes, I say quietly. I think she already did. He closes his eyes and breathes deeply, the air heavy with lilac and the faint scent of water. Then maybe it's time we do too. The sky above us shifts. the clouds breaking just enough for light to spill through. It touches the river, the tree, the old house on the hill. And for a brief moment, everything seems whole again. Later, back in the attic, the letters rest in a small glass frame on the table. The ink glows faintly in the last of the day's light. I add a small note to the bottom of the frame, written on a plain white card, written by a mother in hiding, France, 1942, found by her grandson in 2025. The words they never got to hear in time. The house feels different now, lighter, as if the walls themselves have been unburdened. The silence here isn't heavy anymore. It's tender, full of presence. I take one last look around the attic, the dust motes, the beam of sunlight across the floor, the faint imprint of the lifted board. Everything that once concealed her story now reveals it. I whisper, more to the air than to anyone. She made it. Her words made it. And in that moment, I realized something. Every letter, every sentence, every trembling word was not only a message to her son, but a message to all who would come after. A plea not to forget, a prayer that love can survive even the worst silence. The lilac tree outside moves again in the wind, petals scattering across the grass like snow. They drift towards the open window, a few landing on the attic floor, fragile and alive. I bend to pick one up, pressing it gently between the pages of the last letter. Her story has returned to her house. Her voice has finally reached home. And maybe, somewhere beyond everything we can touch or see, a mother is whispering to her child once more. Not through fear, not through hiding, but through peace. If you've stayed with this story until now, thank you for listening, for remembering, for keeping her voice alive. These letters remind us that even in the darkest chapters of history, love left behind traces that still speak. If stories like this stay with you long after they end, please like this video and subscribe to Mother's Lost War Letters so these voices are never forgotten again. Because sometimes, the smallest words, the ones written in secret, buried beneath silence, are the ones that change everything. Mother's Lost War Letters, the words they never got to hear in time.